it's Lori again, and welcome back to my kitchen. I know that I have already walked you through my process and my recipes for like ham and potato soup. That's in another video, and my latest video was on ham, lentil, and cabbage soup. You can find, both of those in the Meadows studios. They're on YouTube. But I still have ham remaining, and so my plan today was just to can plain ham, and I thought that I would walk you through the process of just canning just plain ham, not necessarily a meal in a jar, but ham to use for other things. And when you can plain meats, it really keeps them versatile, and you just throw them in whatever you're in the mood for the day. Some of the ways that I use my canned ham is in scalloped or au gratin potatoes. I also use it in cold pasta salads. Sometimes I'll just crack open, if I'm not necessarily in the mood for a soup that has cabbage in it, sometimes I'll crack open my canned ham and I'll just add some elbow macaroni to it and make a quick, easy soup that way. Just heat and serve pretty much. Ham is just really, truly very versatile. One of the things that I do want to remind you of when you're canning ham is usually a completely cooked or fully cooked meat when you purchase it from your grocery store. Now, ham has been cured, and in most times it has also been smoked. And in the smoking process, the ham becomes fully cooked. Make sure that when you purchase your ham, make sure to read all of the fine print on your package. Generally, it will say fully cooked. Now, if you are canning fully cooked meats, I really would like to encourage you to make sure that inside your jar, you cover your cooked meats with broth or water. Cooked meats have already rendered out all of their good juices in the cooking process. So you know how you stick a raw turkey in the oven and all of those wonderful turkey juices run into the bottom of the ham by the end of the cooking period. All meats do that. They kind of render all of their good juices out of them already. So if you can of already cooked meat, it has already given all of the juice it can give. And so if you pack that into a jar without adding broth over the top of it, you will end up with scorched and dried out meat inside of your jar. So if it's pre-cooked meats, please remember to cover it with broth or water. Now, raw meat, of course, you just pack your raw meat into your jar, and the raw meat during the cooking and canning process, in your PC or your hot water bath, that meat cooks and it renders its own juice inside of the jar. But of course, our pre-cooked meats cannot do that. Now today what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to be packing my ham into the jars and covering it with ham broth. And I explained in my last video how I make my ham broth using the bones of the ham and some of the skin and some of the miscellaneous fatty pieces or whatever. I just chuck them all into a big stock pot and cover it with water and simmer it for a few hours, and that's how I make my ham stock. I don't add any additional flavors. Of course, if you want to, you can do that, but with my ham stock I don't do that. I don't use onions or celery or bay leaves or anything. I just want the ham flavor. So if you want to, go ahead and make your own ham broth. That's how I do mine, and that's what I'm going to be covering my ham with inside the jars today. Now, another option, of course, is if you don't want to go through the work or the time or whatever of making your own ham broth, feel free to just put a little bit of water in that jar. Ham has plenty of flavor, and you're not really going to lose a whole lot of your flavor if you just use water inside your jar. That's going to be absolutely fine. Another thing that you can do is if you would like a little touch of sweetness to your ham, you can also cover your ham inside of the jar with fruit juice. Pineapple juice tastes really wonderful with ham, but I will go ahead and I will just put my own little personal insight on that for you. If you are going to be using a PC, I generally don't suggest using the fruit juice because the extreme heat of pressure canning really kind of lends a scorched taste when you're using fruit juice along with that meat time. Now, if you're going to water bath your ham, by all means, go ahead and add that pineapple juice as your brine if you would like to do that, because it does not come out of a hot water bath. Even though you're doing it for 3 hours, it doesn't come out tasting scorched or burnt. But if you use fruit juice over your meat in a pressure canner at the meat times, which are required, a lot of times it will scorch and burn. Okay, so I think that's all that I wanted to kind of say, prefacing just getting busy here. So I'm going to point the camera down at my work surface, and we will just get to packing our jars. Now, I have just simply cut all of the ham off of my meat bones and just cut them into the size pieces that you want. Now, these were spiral cut hams, and so these, of course, were really thin slices to begin with. But, you know, when I'm doing meat, particularly if it's already cooked meat, I tend to just kind of cut them into what I feel would be kind of a bite-sized piece for whatever it is that I'm going to be using it, you know, for. So this would work really nicely in scalloped potatoes or au gratin potatoes or a soup or, you know, a salad or whatever. But you just put in the size chunks that you prefer in your jars. So when you're packing pre-cooked meats, I'll say when you're packing raw meat, like if I had raw beef, raw chicken, you know, raw turkey, whatever, if I was packing raw meat, I would cut my raw meat into chunks, and then what I do is I press it in as absolute tight as I can. You really mush raw meat into your jars, okay? You want to press all the air out. You want to really condense that pack. And then, like I said, it will create its own broth as it cooks. But with pre-cooked meats, I do not pack my jars as tightly as if I was packing a raw pack meat, okay? And the reason for that is because I want to be able to allow that broth or water that I'm adding onto that pre-cooked meat. I want that broth and water to be able to really kind of penetrate all the way throughout the jar. So I don't really press my ham down a whole lot at all. You can kind of feel your way and make sure that you're up to, approximately 1 inch headspace on your jar, but don't pack it in super, super tight. So we'll go ahead and get the rest of these jars filled. I'm using this jar that I'm filling right now is actually a product jar. It was a spaghetti sauce jar from the grocery store. And so I am reusing a single product jar today just because I used it the other night and I've got it all washed and ready to go, and why not? They work amazing. These product jars, the product jars that I reuse are ones that have lug lids. Okay, they're a single piece lid and they have a really nice thick rubber gasket seal material on the inside. And so these are the type of jars that I will reuse, product jars that I will reuse for canning purposes. So we'll get him filled and go on to our next jar. Canning ham is seriously one of those very, very easy projects, and just the wonderful convenience of having it on your shelves. It's just amazing to have on hand. You don't have to wait around for Christmas or Thanksgiving to enjoy a little bit of ham throughout the year. You just go and you grab one of your jars of ham and make something special with it. So I really enjoy having ham on my shelves. I have canned ham for years and years and years, and I know that there are people that say that you're not supposed to can ham or you shouldn't can ham. I disagree with that. I have canned ham for just so long and I've never had a problem with it at all. So I'm not really sure where that old adage came that you're not supposed to can ham, because ham cans up fantastically. All right, I'm going to grab my other bowl here of ham and finish up these last 2 jars. Okay, so I'm at just about 1 inch headspace, maybe a little less than 1 inch headspace. Maybe 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches is what I have. And I still have more ham left over, you guys. I'm going to be able to get a few more pints out of this bowl, I believe. Okay, so then what we are going to do is we are going to add our broth, water, or like I said, if you opt to use fruit juice like pineapple juice, that's absolutely fine also. I do still have some of my wonderful ham broth, and so that is what I'm going to choose to put over my ham today. My funnel doesn't exactly fit that product jar. The mouth is a little too small for my funnel to fit in. So I'm going to be careful pouring this in. Now my ham is just at room temperature and my broth is at room temperature. My pressure canner, I'm going to use my Meadows pressure canner again today. My pressure canner water is also at room temperature. Okay, so I'm going to fill to approximately 1.5 inch headspace on all of my jars. And I'll just stop yakking at y'all and we'll just get this done quick. Alrighty, let me move this over. Get our canner in place there. Now, since I am using slices and whatever else of ham, I really do not feel the personal need to have to sit here and debubble. I am confident that all of my broth has flown in between the ham slices, and if it hasn't flown through all the slices, it will do so during the cooking process. So I am not going to debubble today. You can make the choice to do that, of course. It is a suggested step to always take in your canning. I've just been canning so many years that I kind of know what I feel needs it and what I feel doesn't need it. And this is not one of those projects that I really feel like I need to debubble. And I've never had problems not debubbling. I kind of stopped debubbling most things about 10-15 years ago. And so I can tell you from personal experience, well, obviously I'm still alive. I've never had any problems with jars sealing or not sealing. So debubbling, a lot of times I just feel like doing it, you know, like in my ham and lentil soup, that layer of cabbage, there was a lot of air that could have gotten stuck underneath that single layer of cabbage that was pressed in that jar. And so then I do, you know, I do choose to debubble things like that. Or if it's something really thick, like a thicker thing, I will debubble. But with the thin broth that I'm putting in this jar today, I'm confident that it has flowed all the way through the pieces of ham, all the way through the pack. So I'm not so worried about it. All right, so we have wiped our rims, and then we are just simply gonna screw on our bands, our lids and bands, and get them into the canner. Okay, and here is that product jar. Now, when I am using a product jar like a spaghetti sauce jar, if I'm doing a shorter hot water bath process, I will heat the lids in a pan of warm water. Now, I don't boil, boil them like crazy, but I heat them up good. And that's just for shorter hot water bath periods, just because I feel like it helps them seal better. But since I'm going to be doing an entire 90-minute meat process, because I have quarts today, 90-minute meat process, I really don't feel like I have to preheat this lid at all. When you're using these lug lids, you literally just screw them on until they stop moving. They kind of lock in place. And I cannot tell you the science behind these lug lids. I do not know. When you lock them in place, I really don't know, honestly, how it works that the air can vent out of this jar. But it does. It just does it by magic. So you don't have to worry about finger tight or anything. You just put that lug lid on and just twist it until it's locked in place. And these don't turn very far. You all know what I'm talking about, these spaghetti or pickle jars. They don't turn very far. You just, turn them about quarter of a turn and you're locked in place. So I'm going to tip you up again here. There we go. And we'll get this last jar in the canner. And I'm gonna lock on my Meadows canning lid here. Lock it in place. Now, I always heat my canners over medium heat. I don't want to hurry the warm up process, and I don't want to hurry the cool off process. So I don't do high heat, I do medium heat to bring the canner and all of the contents in the jars up to temperature a little bit more gradually. And what that does is that avoids excessive siphoning. Okay, so we'll get that going. Yep, she's a burning. And I'm gonna bring my canner up to a full vent. Make sure that we're on camera there. Maybe tip up just a little bit more. Get a little touch more here. Okay, so we're gonna bring this slowly up to a full vent, and then I'm going to vent for a full 10 minutes, and then I will place my weight and I will pressure can my quarts of ham for 90 minutes. If you are doing pints of ham, it would be pressure canned for 75 minutes. If you want to do a water bath, hot water bath process, it would be 3 hours for either size jar, whether it's the pint or the quart. All right, so I'm gonna get through the canning process and I will allow my canner to cool, and we will be back shortly to show you the beautiful results. All right, guys, so I'm back after my 90-minute pressure canning session, and I just thought I'd take this opportunity. I know I've talked about Presto canners quite a bit. I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk about the Meadows canner. Now, Meadows canners, that airlock that pops up on the Presto, that air and lid lock that pops up, the Meadows lid lock is actually underneath the handle where you cannot visually see it. Everything operates underneath that handle where we can't access it. We can't see whether it's up or whether it's down. You'll know because if your lid is still locked, obviously it's not safe to, open your canner. Your lid lock will have dropped down and you should be able to turn the handle completely, okay? So either one of those two indications is how you know that then it's safe to remove the weight on your canner, okay? And obviously you saw that I could unlock my lid, which means that that lid lock button has dropped down and it's safe to open. So what we're gonna do is now Marrow weights do get very, very hot. Okay, so don't ever take your weight off with just your bare fingers. These little buggers are hot. Unlike the Presto that has kind of, here's a Presto one. It has kind of like a little handle on it. Here's the one that actually comes from the factory on most Prestos. It's got this little, plastic top on it or whatever. But those don't get, you can touch the plastic and not burn yourself. But on the Miro ones, boy, these little hockey puck weights, they get really, really hot. So after it's safe and there's no pressure in your canner, this is the further steps that I want you to do. And do this with your Miro, do this with your Prestos, even do this with your All-American canners. You don't want to just take that lid off immediately and allow all of the cold room air to rush into your canner. So you want to slow the cooling process down just a little bit. Don't ever hurry it. But what I do is I always crack open my canning lid and then I just move it off to the side just ever so slightly. Just barely, itty tiny little bit. And I'm going to allow that to cool for another 10 or 15 minutes. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to inch this lid over a little bit more and allow it to cool again. But for right now, it's open and it's just cracked just a little tiny bit, and we're going to allow it to cool longer. So I'll come back in about another 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, so I've allowed my canner to cool for another 10 minutes. Now I'm going to move it just a little bit more. And I'm going to allow that to cool for another 10 minutes before completely removing my lid. So we'll be back in just another few minutes. All right, so after I cracked it open a second time, I allowed it to cool off for another 10 minutes, and now it's safe to remove the lid. So we will see how these quarts of ham look after being canned. Now I'm going to just quickly remind you to always pick up your jars underneath that glass lip. Do not pick up your jars, of course, by the screw-on band. And here we are. Now I can see that I put a little too much cream of tartar in my canner. So see that stuff that looks like flour? That means that right now, ouch, that was really hot. We have fresh salt in our water softener, and I can back off on the amount of cream of tartar that I use in the canner right now because the water softener is working so well again. Here, this one doesn't have quite as much cream of tartar deposits on it, and you can maybe see that a little bit better. Beautiful ham and broth. So, excuse me, I am going to get these out onto a thick towel, and I am going to allow them to cool overnight. Now, tomorrow, when I return home from work, I will pop open one of these jars of ham for you so that you can see firsthand what the texture of it is like. All right, got all those beautiful jars out of the canner. So, excuse me, my goodness, I've got a little bit of a cough again tonight. So, after cooling, I will reveal what they look like tomorrow. But for now, I'm just not going to touch them. And we will see you again in just a little while. Okay, so I allowed my jars to cool and seal overnight. And then this morning, before I started recording again, I went ahead and brought all of them over to the sink and removed the screw-on bands and washed my jars. Now, this is a super important step whenever you are canning. After your jars have cooled and sealed, really, really important to unscrew those screw-on bands and wash these jars good, okay? And I'll show you a prime example of why. In this batch of ham that I canned on camera for all of you, when I got up this morning, they all appeared to be sealed, okay? This seal was actually down and it appeared to be sealed. When I took my jars over to the sink to wash them and I unscrewed this band and got my ham down into the soapy water, I was washing away and this lid, you guys, came right off. It just came off. So in washing it, I found out that this was not a good sealed jar. Okay, now the product is absolutely fine. I'm going to stick this into the refrigerator, and we will eat this ham within the next day or two. So there's nothing wrong with the product that's inside the jar. It's just that I found out that for whatever reason, this one did not seal. And I don't know if I had maybe a little bit of grease that, you know, sometimes you get just a little bit of siphoning. There wasn't anything really that indicated that in my canner after I was done, but some grease might have been pushed out, or I did notice that there's just a little bit of a rough spot on this jar. It's not like a chip or anything, but it's rough, and so that could have interfered with the seal on this particular jar. But that's why it's so super important after your jars have sealed that you remove those rings and wash up your jars. Now, with a proper seal, you should be able to take your fingers and just by that flat lid only, okay, you should be able to lift the entire product jar up off the counter. That is a good strong seal. Now, obviously with an unsealed lid, you're not going to be able to do that. But I'm going to just stick this in the fridge. It happens, you guys. Even after 40 years of canning, once in a while I have a jar that does not seal properly. It's not the end of the world. It's very common to have that happen. But another thing I want to talk to you about is these reusing product jars, okay? Now you can hopefully see that during the canning process, as it cooled and sealed, you can see that indicator button is completely popped down. Listen to that seal. That is like coming right out of the factory. These lug lids, I swear, you guys, sometimes I trust these manufactured product lids, these lug lids, more than I trust our canning flats that are being sold to us these days. But I am not only somebody who says, yes, you can do this. I want to show you how well it works. And so even though I have this failed seal on one of the jars, I want you guys to hear this thing unseal, okay? Because it is literally just like I bought it from the store. This is how well these reseal when you use them, you know, the product jars. So I've got just, these are little rubber circle things. I think I got this from the Dollar Tree store, but all this is it kind of helps me hang on to the lid a little bit tighter so that I can get it unsealed. You know, some of these lug lids, they're tough to unseal, but I'm going to be completely quiet and hopefully you guys can hear the pop as I open this product lug lid with my canned ham inside. So here we go. Did you hear that, guys? Beautiful, beautiful seal. I get so excited over the little things, and I've been canning forever. Canning is always still very exciting for me. But anyway, I'm going to dump this out into the bowl so that I can show you what the ham is like after canning. Now remember that ham is fully cooked even before you can it, and when you're canning it, it's getting even more cooked. But I want to show you what the texture and consistency of this ham is. So hopefully I'm at a good place where you can see. I'm going to maybe try to pour some of that juice out here. Watch me make a mess, guys. Let's pour some of this juice back in the jar. Yeah, I'm making a mess all over my counter. Oh well. I'm willing to sacrifice anything for all of you, just to show you. All right, well, I've got a mess to clean up, but that did solve the problem. Now let me wipe my hands off here. Okay, we'll get this wet, soppy stuff out of the way and pick our bowl back up. Okay, that solved the problem, so at least now you can see the ham. Okay, look it. I can stir that around. That stays in chunks. It does not completely fall apart. And here we go, real test. I'm gonna stick a piece of ham on my fork. Look at that. Wonderful consistency. In fact, I almost had a hard time getting that off the fork. Here's some of that sliced ham. Look at that, guys. Fork test. Just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, let me put this down. I'm going to wipe my hands again because I have ham juice all over them. And we'll page up here. So, like I said, I'm always willing to show you the final product because I want you to know, if you do this at home, I want you to know what the results are going to be. And with that product jar, I want you to know, don't take my word for it. Yes, they do seal. Yes, they are great. I want you to hear it with your own ears and see it with your own eyes that yes, reusing product jars from the grocery store is okay to do. Just make sure that they are these single piece lug lids that lock on onto the jar. So there is our wonderful home canned ham. I will go ahead and use this in many, many applications in my kitchen. In fact, the other night, I just quickly made up some macaroni and cheese and I drained the juice off of a jar of ham and put the ham in the macaroni and cheese. I tell you, it might not be gourmet, but it was pretty darn good. Make soup with this. Make scalloped potatoes and ham with this. Make au gratin potatoes and ham with this. Make ham salad with this. Or a cold pasta salad with ham and peas in it. Really, there is no end to the options on how you can use home canned ham. So I'm going to leave it at that today. I thank you for joining me again. And until we meet again, down the road again, I'm saying again a lot. Sometimes, you guys, I just get in these loops in my head and I apologize. But until we meet again, God bless you all and happy canning, everybody.